Okay, so one thing I've noticed is that the the first couple of the 10 sayings or 10 commandments, these are really 10 sayings of God. And the first saying is just an identifier, saying, you spoke these words as I, Yahweh, or I am, or I will be. That all means the same thing. It's more powerful than it could be translated into standard English. Okay, or I was, I am, and I always will be your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. No, you have no other gods before me. I am it. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, and everything in between. God is everything you see, hear, smell, know, the things you don't see, hear, smell, or feel. Okay. Now, that's the first saying. It's that important that you get that down, that you focus on that going forward. And then it says, don't make yourself any carved image of anything that's in the heavens. This is supposed to say in the heavens. This is plural. So that means the sky, space, um, or just the dimensions, the 3 dimensions of reality that we live in, all the way to the edge of the universe and beyond. Or in the earth, it also means matter, or soil or dirt, anything beneath of anything is a water, like Aquaman or the gods, Neptune. You won't bake anything of them and then worship them, serve them, right? And then he talks about I'm jealous, don't do that. If you do this thing wrong, your kids are probably going to do it wrong, and so on for 3 or 4 generations, right? But I will bless those who, several generations of people that keep my commandments and love me. If you love, and there's a verse that says, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." So here's the thing that people get confused about: is you know, there's there's graves, right? And people make little monuments for graves, and that's a graven image, right? Because it's grave or it's carved image, right? And but as long as you're not worshiping it, you're fine. What happened a lot of the times is they would have a grave for somebody like Nimrod in the Bible, and this character became translated into like a canon of gods. Like he was a mighty hunter. He was associated with the god of war in many pagan things. You know, basically, he was like the human representation of that, and maybe people pray to that. They worship it, but they're not supposed to. Christianity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all same God. So you're not breaking the commandment. God made divine Abba made Jesus Lord. The Holy Spirit and the divine parent are basically the same, one and the same. It's very clear. That's even more clear because it's he starts in that starts in Genesis. Um, and one of the things is why did God make such a big deal out of this? Well, they came out of Egypt, and Egypt was pagan, and the pagans had different views of the Canaanite gods than the Hebrews were used to. So after being good slaves for several generations, they needed a reset. They needed a reboot. In other words, hey, we're taking this down to just one God, the God that took you out of slavery. Focus on me, right? Like Jesus said to Peter when he got out of the boat, keep your eyes on me. Right? I don't want you worshiping any of these gods because the Canaanite gods, you had Asherah, which was the female aspect of God, and there's maternal aspects of God. God is sort of you know, both, right? It's like he's androgynous. Um, and we just say he because that's the way it's written in the text of the Bible. Abba or Emma basically sound almost alike. That's daddy and mommy, right? And Jesus taught you to say Abba. In other words, he wants you to have a more intimate, personal, affectionate relationship with God, not something formal, where you feel like you have to kill a bunch of chickens to talk to him. So you've got the maternal instincts of God, and there's all sorts of verses like that. In the Jewish tradition, this is really nice and beautiful. Shekinah. The Shekinah glory is the eminent feminine aspect of God, often referred to as motherly presence or bride in the world. A mother eagle, God's nursing the child. That could also be a prophecy of Jesus and Mary, where God's nursing the child because the Holy Spirit was in Mary. But also, God does nurture in the tradition of both genders. Um, and then even in the Islam, uh, the word for room is Aram, and there's Allah's names here are the merciful one is the same root word as the divine is to the womb. So their languages are very close, right? Hebrew and the other Middle Eastern languages. That's why I bring that up, not because I'm trying to teach you to be a Muslim. So like this Baal was a Canaanite god, but then it became something else after the pagans got a hold of it and they saw what the Egyptians were doing that was wrong. Um, Baal was sort of it was a good idea. Then they got tied up in the paganism, and Baal became this creature who's the first king of hell, and you know bestows makes people bargain so they can have black magic and become witches and stuff. Um, so yeah, you don't want to worship Baal. That's really bad. Basically, it's considered very close to Satan worship. Baal worship is, and Asherah was the female aspect of God back in the Canaanite days, but then after the enslavement in Egypt, that became corrupted as well because they had their own concept of the mother god, which they would, they kind of forced down the Hebrews' throats, and they got a very bad idea of that, because Asherah, which was good, became bad all of a sudden to them because there was like prostitution in the temple and stuff like that, and things that God didn't want His children to do anymore. So God basically did a whole religious reboot and said, just forget all that. Forget all those corrupt things that have been made corrupt in your mind. Because the first statement, I am it. I'm everything. I'm your everything. Alpha Omega. Don't look at anybody else. Look at me. Right? Peter, if you step out on the boat, do not take your eyes off me. As soon as you take your eyes off me, you're going to lose faith. So one of the things is, can I have a cross? Can my kid make a drawing? Can I have a painting in my house? Can I have a crucifix on my wall? Yes. You're not worshiping it. That's the context, is that you can't make these things and then worship it. Now, some people will take that a step further and say, I'm not going to make anything, so that way I won't be guilty if someone else worships it, or if I backslide later and worship it. That's up to you. But yeah, As long as you, as long as you're not bowing down to that little cross that you put on your necklace and worshiping it, you're fine, right? Because you've seen the prophets wouldn't bow down to the leaders of the captive, rulers, who sometimes would either they would say that they were divinely linked, hereditary in their genetics, you know, or they would say B, that they saved the country, and like God, they are saviors to their country, and you need to bow down in respect to them, like Kim Jong Il or Lenin or whatever. Well, back in the Bible days, you know, they were asked to do that, and they said no, and they got thrown into the fiery furnace, and the Son of God appeared there with them, right? And they were fine. So that's all I got for that. Yeah, you can have a cross, a necklace, a painting, a drawing, art. It's not forbidden. It's all over. It's integrated into the Bible if you just keep reading the Bible, Leviticus, just building temples and tabernacles and the Ark of the Covenant and all those things. Yeah, God doesn't have a big problem with art. He loves art, I think. All right, bye bye.